We're going live. Nice. So how do you take your coffee now that you were just hanging out for the moment? Are you drinking coffee,
Well,
are you?
yeah, so this is a Nespresso pod with
Yeah.
an espresso machine. So it's like an espresso, and I use a little heavy cream in it to make it really rich. No
Nice.
sugar. I'm sweet enough.
I do tend to drink more tea than coffee, but coffee goes a long way with me. I'm very sensitive to caffeine. So
Well,
I
I drink coffee in the morning and tea for the rest of the day and most of the night.
Oh, there you go. I love it. Hi Margarita. Thank you for joining us. So we were just having a chat on another platform a minute
Good
ago. So
morning,
people can join
everyone.
us. This is Laurie. I'm so excited to introduce you to my community. We have such wonderful people that join us. Unfortunately, StreamYard is glitching. If you'll notice, everybody on Facebook is coming up as Facebook user.
Right.
So I've asked them
We
to put
see
their
that.
names up there so we know who is commenting.
I see Karen, Amanda.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Hello. So thanks to the glitch, we have a little bit more confusion on here than normal. Hi, Amanda. So it's a little frustrating, but we'll figure it out. We'll just read about it as it comes. So this is Laurie,
Excellent.
everybody. Laurie is on Gaia, and that's how I found Laurie. I was just kind of having a little scroll around on Gaia one night looking for something interesting, and I saw your chat with George Norrie, and I loved it. And then I saw the other one you had about entities, and I thought, okay, now I really need to talk to her because that was a phenomenal discussion that you had.
Was that one with George or
Yeah,
was that on Open Minds?
that was on Open Minds.
Yeah, with Regina. Yeah.
Yes, with
Yeah.
Regina.
Yes. Yeah. Regina and I always have wonderful conversations.
She's lovely, eh?
Yeah.
She's been at this for quite a long time. She's a great
True.
person to talk to. She knows her stuff.
True.
So, if you don't mind, we could start maybe from the beginning, just how you got into this line of work.
Sure. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, have a private practice here in Sacramento. Been doing this work for about 30 years. I was going to be a psychologist and was studying psychology, had some early childhood trauma, including the abduction phenomena,
Yeah.
and went to a hypnotherapist and was profoundly, deeply, like automatically shifted. And I began to realize that in psychology or in empowerment or change, that we have to become the architect of the subconscious mind, create the template of the desired behavior, and then embed that. So when my subconscious mind received a new message or a new way to observe, handle, and let go of specific trauma, I was freed, a very specific freedom that allowed me to feel safe enough in the world that my authentic self could emerge. And I moved right into the Alchemical Hypnotherapy Institute, spent some time there here in
Mhm.
Sacramento, then again in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And yeah, and then then in funny, during my final exam uh, to become a clinical hypnotherapist, I was regressing somebody in front of an audience, judges from the school, and they wanted to make sure that I was actually recessing them, moving into the subconscious, and then
Interesting.
bringing them back into conscious awareness. So anyway, I asked him a question, and he automatically reverted to about a 10-year-old and started telling a story about a camping trip with the family when
Oh,
he and his brother were out exploring, climbing up a hill. They saw UFO land. And as the entities were leaving the craft, I asked him to describe them. And out of nowhere, appearing out of nowhere, was a ball of light that appeared at his forehead and zipped down the body and disappeared. I looked over my shoulder at the judges and they were like, we're not quite sure, but carry on, because I have somebody under. So they indicated for me to carry on. I asked him another question and we were right back to where we began
yeah.
prior to him regressing to 10. So from that moment forward, experiencers from all around the world have come to understand, deepen, and heighten their understanding of the phenomena, being able to differentiate between a contactee and an abductee.
Because they can be very different experiences.
Yeah, they are very different experiences. Yeah.
And a lot of the contactees, I imagine, this is their star seeds, but the abductees, it's more of an experimentation sort of thing.
Well,
Sometimes.
here's the thing. Within the abduction phenomena, there's a very specific agenda. And that agenda is to create a gray hybrid.
Yes, I've heard that.
For the integration of said hybrid onto the planet. So you'll notice certain adjustments in weather modification. Our topography around the world is changing due to ice melting, oceans expanding, landslides, and so forth. We're changing quite rapidly.
I'm sure there's some terraforming going on.
Absolutely. So it does appear to be some form of terraforming.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. If they want to do that, then the appropriate way to handle that is to have the humans expressed permission. Otherwise, they are a thief in the night, taking what is not theirs, therefore in gross violation of the fundamental universal human rights. And there is where I become agitated and feel much like an advocate at this point in helping to educate people. You don't have to be abducted. You don't have to have an interaction. There are ways to move the mind out of those experiences and out of sleep paralysis when sometimes, it feels like you have no control.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a very interesting phenomena.
And a lot of people, it's discovering the context that really is the most important thing for a lot of people, because they want to know the why. I've noticed that there's a lot of people, for example, that are abductees that are starseeds that didn't realize it was their own people coming down to give them healing, to just make sure that everything is okay, that their tracking is working well. Sometimes they actually are doing, rechecks on their own people, so to speak.
And in those incidents, there's a protocol.
Yes.
That we expect to be followed. And one of the first things in that case is that they address you by your name. They ask you your permission. Once they've addressed you by your name and you've given consent, permission, then and only then should any interaction happen, even if it's a higher guidance, even if it's a family star seed. In this moment, as we are manifested into the third dimensional reality, being human is one of the most important things. We should never dishonor that in any way, because we are a very powerful being. One must ask themselves, why is every other being in the universe interested in us? Well, they're interested in us because we are on a precipice of a very specific evolutionary step. According to the Gaia hypotheses, as the human race gets closer to about a 10 billion population, and that should happen around 2045, we're going to see an evolutionary step. Through the cosmology of tracking the universe, we can see where the planet Earth will be, and we'll know what cosmic energies we're receiving. We are expecting, as that 10 billion mark hits, that we will have a collective consciousness moving forward with the decalcification of the pineal gland, allowing a natural universal telepathy. Now, the only way the human race can move into that state, which is really what we would refer to as fourth dimensional consciousness thinking and understanding, is when the human has done their emotional work and they have inner peace, tranquility, that they are not in a place of judgment, that they allow everybody their journey. They can help and guide, but not condemn, ridicule, or belittle, because one is not superior to the other. We're all in this together. And so collectively, we can see that we can work together. Now, until that happens, it's going to be a little messy. But you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, so it's okay. As long as we can, expand into the larger picture and begin to understand what it means to be human. And just a reminder that hue is the word we use to measure the saturation or the density of light. We measure that in hues. Man comes from the word manifestation, to come into the physical or to be embodied. A human is a light embodied being. And when you understand what you are, you're more capable of feeling more grounded, finding your place in the world, and then expanding consciously into understanding the multidimensional aspect of the human soul. And in that multidimensional aspect is our connection to really listen. All that is, all that ever was, all that ever could be is in that connection. It is the highest frequency of energy, and we can resonate into that as we begin to take those very important steps towards our own self-actualization, self-acceptance, and self-mastery.
Oh, beautifully said. What an exciting time to be here. We could have chosen any point in human history, and we chose to be here right now. And we chose to be awake here right now. So, I mean, that's the tall order.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And I've been very fortunate to talk to people all around the world to allow them a sense of peace, to be able to like settle in and settle down into the moment, becoming more present, therefore more aware, therefore more capable of moving forward, as opposed to, if you look around at many people, they seem a little stuck, a little wounded, and that's okay. There are again protocols.
Some of them are a little bitter, Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, then there's that, right? It's been very interesting to watch the humans react. And just for the record, people ask me all the time why I say humans with an S. Because right now on the planet Earth, in the duality of the planet Earth, there are three specific types of humans. Those that are born and are not a very old soul, and they're very materialistic. They're very into the material, which is fine. This is a material world, but there has to be balance. So they're still learning that about balance. And so they're very material, emphasizing physical appearance, personal wealth, and maybe what type of car you drive. That these are indicators.
Say, some people are just here to go to football games and wear bear hats.
Well, yeah, and in ancient times they went, to the Roman Colosseum and watched people being thrown, but everybody knew where they were during that time and how they were occupied. Yeah, no, we're at a time when we can begin to create change. And in the words of Tom Petty,
love Tom,
wherever he is now, he said, if you want to change the world, change yourself.
Yeah.
And it's important really to know ourselves right now and who we are. It's more important now than ever to know your own mind because of technologies, the rapid advancement. We have artificial intelligence rescanning our energies, reading our minds. And then we have psychotronics, radionics, and other forms of voice to skull communications. That these are all weaponized forms of synthetic telepathy. And for the people listening in, go ahead and Google synthetic telepathy. You can see the United States government started using it in about 2008 publicly. So they were probably doing it decades prior to that. Yeah. Some people refer to it as the Havana syndrome, which makes it easier to digest when you can see that there are beams being sent up to specific people, impairing their brain and changing their judgment. So just like we all have our unique thumbprint, we all have a very unique energy signature.
Yes.
And
Some even liken it to be a 16-digit code, I was told.
right,
Everyone has their unique code, I was told, and this frequency has a code.
barcode.
Yeah, it's your barcode,
And that's
basically.
right
Yeah.
with our, well,
My
that's what
guides have warned me because you got to be careful where that barcode ends up. If it ends up in an area where you might be targeted because they're like, hey, she's been mingling in areas she shouldn't have been, you know?
well, I know about this particular stuff because I do work with targeted individuals,
I
people
do
who
it
have
now.
had have been under attack by that type of phenomena where it's affected them mentally, physically,
Yeah. It'll hit
impairing
you
their
all.
ability. Yeah, but creates artifacts, what look like lesions on the brain that show up in MRIs. And
Rashes
so there
too
is,
will form.
well, some people say that, do you remember Morgellons?
More Jones. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That was kind of a part of it.
Synthetic life forms. Yes, they were made out of. They tried to say it was silicone based life form.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's
Did they
because
get
it
it
did
from
come out.
Mars? Wasn't it from like the Mars rover or something they brought back? I believe I was told it was extraterrestrial, but I never confirmed that or not.
Well, you never know because our government has been working with different types of extraterrestrials for many decades.
Yeah, yes, they have. And that's one of the reasons why they allow the abductions to occur. They are well aware that the abductions are happening. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they have an agreement to allow a certain number of abductions to happen as long as they aren't messing with the government too much. It's like, all right, you can mess with some of our
Yeah.
people, just stay out of our
Okay,
way.
so the agreement was 250,000 enlisted men and women, but it was primarily men at the time, because this agreement was done during the Eisenhower administration.
I knew it.
You
Yep.
find right after that, we had fiber optics and, and all of these new technologies, and it's just been going crazy since then. But here's the thing, they were given permission to abduct or examine 250,000 enlisted. But in order for an extraterrestrial who has a lifespan of 900 to 1100 years, in order for them to get a readable sample, they have to do generations. So
Mhm.
if your grandparents were military or uncles or
Oh my
aunts and down the
God.
line, we do see that in the commonalities of experiencers, there is a military connection.
Like that
Not with
that
everybody,
miniseries
but
Taken. Have you ever seen that Taken? Where they took the grandmother, then the mother, then the granddaughter, and
yeah.
they kept I mean, that's what they do though. They're testing things generationally as well.
Well, yes. My own mother notified me when I turned 50. She called me up. She had seen a TV show. Now, this was over a decade ago. And she said that she wanted to tell me the story of my birth and why she couldn't raise me and keep me and why she abandoned me. And she had said that during the 9 months that she was pregnant, she was visited almost monthly, and that the extraterrestrials told her that they were checking on her baby. Now, well, she called up and, out of the blue and said, are you Laurie McDonald? And I said, yes. And she's like, this is your mother. And I have this story to tell you. And so I went and got my husband. I put her on speakerphone, grabbed a little tape recorder, let her talk. I only interrupted her one or two times, I think once to get a physical description of the extraterrestrials that she said transported her. It was an excellent description, a very, very good. She had said she'd gone out in the morning around 5 o'clock, and out of nowhere, 2 4-foot beings showed up on either side of her, sort of transported her through the apple orchard. And in the center, there's a clearing where tractors turn during harvest. And above that was a UFO. And upon looking at it, she found herself on top in the craft, becoming disoriented as the craft appeared much larger on the inside, as if it had displayed some morphogenic quality.
Interesting.
She said her feet were cold. And then she remembers being put on a table. And I asked her, what kind of table? And she said, honey, it looked like an ironing board. I said, okay. And she carried on. She got scared several times, and she said they were behind her. And they told her they're just here to check on the baby. She did tell her doctors, and they sent her to a therapist. They told her she had hormone problems. The therapist sent her to a psychiatrist who told her she was healthy, but she shouldn't talk about those things because she could risk losing her other children. And so she stopped talking about it and started to keep a journal. And that is what she wanted to share with me, what her experience was. But
Wow, Laurie.
she started to get scared, and she heard like a cracking, a popping sound in her head. She described some very specific tests. And then she said she woke up crying, bleeding from the nose and vaginally, in full labor in the backyard, calling out for help, and no one could hear her. It was like her household had been sedated. The neighbor did hear her and came and got her, aroused the household, rushed her to the hospital, and I was born. Now, my mom and birth dad have no similarities to me at all, zero. And I think that she said the weirded her out a little bit, but it spooked her. But my parents are very short, and black hair, brown eyes, just not. I'm very tall and not those things. I mean, that doesn't really mean too much, but back then in the 60s, it did raise certain questions.
Yeah.
And knowing what she had experienced. So she just ditched the whole thing
Wow, Laurie.
and moved on. And then told me when I turned 50, only because she had realized that I'd been running support groups for experiencers, helping them navigate the emotional energy without harming them. And so she did say that if something like that was available for her back in the 60s, then maybe both of us might have had a different life. So I think the point to this is speak up, speak your truth, and be there for someone, even if their experience is difficult for you to process.
Yeah.
Try to help them because you just don't know. Our universe is vast, and we have life teeming from the depths of the ocean into deep space. But here's the thing, much like the fish in the sea, it's beautiful. They have a beautiful life there. But I know this, they have no idea what walks on this earth. Much like the humans who do walk on this earth have no idea what is in our skies. So we need to begin to level up and open the mind and the heart so that we can expand our consciousness into valuing life, valuing the human existence, so that we can be ultimately forgiving, which really is incorporating those higher frequency emotions like mercy for someone who's suffering, pity, forgiveness, unconditional acceptance, and love without judgment. So when we do that, what happens? Our aura changes color. We get this awesome light in violet tones, cosmic colors. They're incredibly beautiful. And that is our truth. That is what we are. That is what we are capable of. Now, that being said, there also is some darkness here on the planet, but it just has not had light shined upon it yet. And when that happens, the darkness lessens, right? It's like a seed does not know it contains the entire tree, right? we have all of these great opportunities for growth. So even through darkness or pain or suffering, it is an opportunity without judgment to level the energy and move up.
It sounds like you were born with a hell of a vocation. You you must have planned some of this before you came in here, because for it to be have that synchronicity, to occur. I mean, there's no way that is not divine planning.
Well, when I was about 30, and I had been meditating for about 16 years or longer by the time I was 30. Oh, probably about started when I was 12. First few years didn't really count. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
None of us really do at
Well,
30. We think we do, but no.
oh, I mean at 12. Okay, no, at 30, I'd been meditating and I had it down for me. But it's called a practice for a reason, because we just need to practice. Nobody's supposed to be adept, right? There's no master meditator. It's all
There's no
on our
master of
own.
anything on earth. I don't think you can master anything within 100 years personally. Not with the very
Well,
limited information we have down here.
it will, and that might change, though. We might begin to move forward, because ultimately there are only two things to master as a human. One is love and one is fear. And because this earth is dualistic in nature, some will be fear mongers, some will be fear based. Now, with love, you can love everything and anything, but you have to be able to receive love. And that means expressing vulnerability and speaking your truth and showing your true self, and still expecting to be loved unconditionally. Because I know I do, right? And I think that everybody should do that, because, why not? Why not? What else? Otherwise, we're wasting time.
Yes, absolutely.
We're wasting time, sort of like a dog chasing its tail. But so with the love and fear, it really is just the ability to experience equanimity, or practice that, to be calm and self-assured
Yeah.
among the chaos that we might experience, really to be unaffected by it, being able to relax those emotional triggers and maybe not take everything so personally. So like even with road rage, I can observe people freaking out behind car, and they're banging on the steering wheel, and you can see the bad words flying. Not that any words are bad per se, but you can see them
We drop
cussing up a
F-bombs on
storm.
this podcast all the time. You're free for all expression, Laurie. You're fine.
Well, as a Canadian, it is my right to do that. They do swear a
Nobody
lot.
gives a shit around here. You're fine.
So you can see
Let
people
it out.
freaking out, screaming, "You went into my lane," or it's like, my lane, you own that lane. It's a possessive thing. Nobody's trying to kill anyone. These are accidents or people rushing, but it's not a deliberate thing, and it's not personal. And if we can just change a slight adjustment in our energy, you're going to recognize that you have more control over how you feel. And you can ask yourself throughout the day, do I like how I feel? And if the answer is no, then you simply ask yourself, what is my next empowered step? Why is a big question. Why me? Why not me? Why did they get this? Why didn't I get that? Why? Okay. It'll teach you cause and effect. But more importantly is what? What do I do next? What is my next step? If we ask the right questions, we're going to get the right answers for us. Some of them are universal, some of them are more specific, but I find that hypnotherapy really allows people to do those deep dives into the psyche, creating that integration of different levels of the self through different aspects of self-acceptance. And when that happens, the true self does emerge. But also what happens is the conscious, the subconscious, and the superconscious mind, the unconscious mind, are all on the same page.
Yeah.
And when you're all on the same page, you're more capable of producing whatever it is. I want to read some of these, whatever it is. Oh, okay. They send back 2 times. All right. Well, I get that. I just think this is what I think when I'm experiencing it. If they're doing it to me, I'm like, okay, go ahead and go. I'm thinking you probably just had like a double brand muffin and an espresso, and you really, really got to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, go. Right. So I'd rather diffuse the energy. Sending it back though, actually, you got to be careful. All words are spells. All words that leave our mouth are casting. So we have
Send it to
to
source.
understand,
Send it to
yeah, the
source your piece
power of
of love.
words.
Send it to Gaia
We
or
have,
source.
yeah, words are powerful.
Yeah. Sometimes you could easily send things back to people, but sometimes you don't want to send what they're giving out back to anybody. So you just send it to source.
Well, energetically, when we send something back, it's not just the 2 times. Imagine in physics that you have a tennis ball and you throw it as hard as you can against the wall. Well, it bounces back with far more velocity and speed. And that's just on sending it. Okay. Now, if you're deliberately conjuring your energy and you are returning it, they're going to get smacked pretty hard. So I think that they might not always deserve that, but I'm all about second chances with
Yeah.
people. I think that when people realize that, oh, I can, wipe the slate clean
Well, this
and
is
like
why I
miss.
don't tell people a lot of times when I clear curses from people, they're like, one of the main questions is, who cursed me? And I'm like, I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you who cursed you, because then you're going to unknowingly curse them. Because if you
Mhm.
have bad intentions sent to you and you find out who was sending you bad intentions, what's the first thing most people do? Is you return the bad intentions, where you're like, well, screw you too. You know,
Well,
that doesn't help
a
anything.
curse is real. It can, and depending on who's doing it. I mean, when I was in, I think it was Hoi An, Vietnam, and I rented a motorcycle because they don't let you rent cars if you're foreign there. And anyway, the guy at the hotel kept using our motorcycle at night, burning all of the gas and then leaving it completely empty. And so we're like, what is happening? Do we have a leak? Right? Then we find out that he's using it. So we run out of gas and we pull it into a gas station and tell him we're out of gas. He looks at us, he sees we have no gas, and sees that we're foreign. And now the price of gas just went up 10 times. He just said, okay, now that's what's going to be for you. It was like 10 times the amount, right? So I went like this, right? Well, I didn't mean anything too bad by it. Just like, I would never treat you like that if you visited my country.
Yeah.
And I went like that. Well, they literally fell off the back of their chairs, scurrying away from me, thinking that, I really
You
did this.
just cursed them.
I cursed their gas station and their bad behavior. And they were freaked out. I was like, oh no. I only did it because I didn't have the words in Vietnamese to express my truth. Right?
Well, you expressed something.
That's right. That's exactly right. So,
Well,
um,
that's funny. Well, it just goes to show that intentions. And one of the things that I've noticed about curses too is
right.
that they don't always have to be professional curses with actual, like spell work and all of that. Sometimes it's just like reverse Reiki. You send jealousy, you send, you know what I mean? Like you can send Reiki healing and love to people, but you can send the opposite as well. So you need to be mindful about how you feel
Yeah.
about others and the intentions you're sending out.
Yeah, I do wonder a lot about that with the sending and people being very receptive to receiving energy. But then I also know that most humans will feel when the energy shifts,
Oh yeah. Yeah, they
you
will.
know, yeah, and we'll begin to know that. And I do like I send the energy back to source so much as back just into the earth, knowing that it can ground it right in there, do whatever it needs to do to it. And I believe the concept's similar.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
But for a lot
I've
of us
seen,
let's go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking for a lot of us that are dealing with these, like empaths, for example, a lot of people pick up things around them all the time without even really being aware of what they're picking up.
Well, again, that's why it's more important now than ever before to know not only your own mind, but your own energy so you can sense into yourself and feel it. One of the exercises I like to do with people is having them, going into a sort of a relaxed state, taking some long, deep breaths, have them focus their mind and then move their mind down, like into the feet, just sense, scan, feel. You'll begin to feel it tingling,
Yeah.
stirring. When you become very good at that, you move your mind out of the body into your environment, scanning exactly the same way, and you will feel. So this is moving our consciousness, and this is taking steps in utilizing what we do. Now, I oddly and out of nowhere, about 5 years ago, I woke up left-handed. I've always been right-handed, and I was cooking, and I have lots of five grandkids, four granddaughters in town here, and we were cooking breakfast, and everybody eats something different, and I use chopsticks when I cook bacon because that's just easiest for me. So anyway, I'm using chopsticks with my left hand, and I'm flipping eggs over here. And my husband said, since when could you use your left hand like that? And I went, oh, I didn't realize. Then it occurred to me that I use both my feet equally. I do. And I now use both hands equally. If something is on my left side, I use my left hand. If it's on my right side, I use my right hand. Something that I would have normally did with my right hand, I'll switch up. And I was doing that for a while, and I don't know if that's also why it happened. I was just doing it for brain exercises, but then now I paint, and I do paint with both hands at the same time
Interesting.
because it's like one side of my brain, I can sense the depth, and on the other, it's the light, right? And so I can, yeah, I didn't know I was doing
That
that
must have
either
been a
until
cool download that you got.
well, that happens, although you got to be careful with the downloads, or if you hear any instructions in your head, a voice, you want to be able to make sure that you know where it's
Validate that
coming from.
they are from the highest of light. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so you got to put them through the protocol. Like I said, you got to make sure that they address you with respect, using your name. And I'll tell you, at 30, after meditating for those years and learning how to use my mind, I had been meditating and experiencing way too many out of body experiences. Every time I meditated, I would pop right out of my body, see myself with no eyes, walk around myself with no legs, but perceiving myself to have a full body. I would just get into the bathtub out of the body. I would be on the ceiling seeing myself. So that night, after just too many in one day, I had this incredibly lucid dream, and I was in this Buddhist temple. I could smell sandalwood. I could understand the activity and everything that was going on. It was a very profound dream. But when I woke up, I opened my eyes and was like I was disoriented. I didn't recognize where I was. Literally a blink ago, I was in the temple. And so it shifted so quick for me that I called in sick. And I remember packing brown bag lunches for the kids to go to school. And I got in my car and just drove aimlessly thinking, because I do like to think. And I drove this way and that, meandered out old Highway 16 here, and lo and behold, out in the distance was the very temple that I dreamed.
No
I
way.
pulled into these wide iron gates. I walked up to the second set of gates, which I knew would be there. They were open about 6 inches, and behind them were two female monks. They said, why have you come? I said, I've come to meditate. They said, how did you know about us? I said, I dreamed you. And as fast as a monk could scurry, off she went to get the master. She brought master back to the gates. They're speaking outside of my ability to understand. They're speaking Vietnamese. And then master points at my head, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And she said, you've come wearing the bun of an initiate. And they opened the gates. And for the next 5 years, I went there daily, sometimes meditating for 18 hours a day consecutively with the monks. They eventually robed me and asked me to stay, but I was also bringing my son, who is now 37, and he started meditating there at 5. So this was unbelievable to me. And of course, when we talk about divinity or our destiny, I was meant to go to that temple. I will tell you, I learned more on how to control my mind, my body. I learned more about other worlds than the thousands of extraterrestrial cases I've done over the last 30 plus years. So we have to see the subtle coincidences and synchronicities, and some not so subtle. Literally, they were smashing me over the head with the out of body experience
I know what that's
until
like.
I did something. But then at the end of that, after those years passed, I remember walking into my bedroom one night, picking up some laundry, and I was headed to the laundry room. The kids were in bed, and I had like an hour quiet time to myself. And if you're a parent, you know what that means. Right? So it's everything. Okay, no, so so I've picked up the laundry. It's kind of hooked on my hip. I'm heading down the hallway, and I hear Laurie. I kind of freeze, and I'm breathing. Right? I hear Laurie, and I stand up straight. I turn around, and they said Laurie, and there were 3 very tall entities in this sort of like that cosmic violet color, right? They were sounded feminine, their voices were high and rapid. And they said, you passed. I said, I died? And they were like, no, you passed. I'm like, remember dying?
We need the context on the passing here.
I'm telling you, I mean, listen, out there, very literal.
Test,
Okay.
then, yeah, you passed the test.
I passed, yes. And
Nice.
so they said you passed. And so I kind of nodded like I'm finally understanding. This is overwhelming, right? Because as they're talking, the wall sort of disappears, and I actually can see deep space and stars. And they said, are you afraid? I said, I am not. They said, do you want to see? And I said, I do. And in that moment, I was like wrapped in that cosmic soft violet energy, and I began to rise. I could feel the different atmosphere stratus up to the stratosphere, and then everything became black, and I sensed other beings in front of me, and they like evaluated or scanned or judged me, and I was like as open as a 5-year-old. And in that moment I literally burst into space, and I looked down to see where my body was, and there were stars and planets. And I said to these beings, how could this be? I'm still Laurie. I'm just Laurie. And they laughed, and that energy uh, vibrated the very essence of me in this total loving acceptance. And then there were like light years between my eyes. And in the distance, I saw this beautiful golden portal orb. And with the fluidity of thought, I was moved through space, and I was leaving. And as I was entering it, they said to me, "What about Ryan?" That's my youngest child. And I was totally forgot I even had kids, trust me. And I did not remember I had kids in that moment. I was more than Laurie and still Laurie. And with the sound of his name, I felt this emotional, gravitational pull back down to the earth, back into my house. And I said to them, I looked into this face that I can't describe, and I said, "But I don't even know your name. Please come back." And 3 nights later, they did come back, and I went easily, willingly, and is where I began to learn fourth and fifth dimensional consciousness, thinking and understanding the truer definitions of the word human, woman, what it is, are the difference between fate and destiny. As fate are simply the circumstances of your life, things that happen to you outside of your power, outside of your will or desire, strength or education, just stuff you don't want to happen, right? Circumstances of your life, not your life, not an indicator of your character, integrity, or destiny. Now, destiny is where you're going to resonate into that. And if you drop that fear, and if you take one small, self-assured, empowered step forward with an open mind and an open heart, you'll find that there is magic in this world. And that magic is in us, because we have the most extraordinary opportunities to learn.
Yes.
And so we learn.
We're still making our destiny as we go.
Yeah.
Humanity has got so many different pains that it's trying to heal right now as a collective, so many different traumas to heal as a collective. And I feel that we are doing that. A great deal of what we're doing right now is about healing and purging the traumas of the past. That's why so many past life resonances, for example, are coming forward right now. People are healing trauma from not only this lifetime, but other layers of themselves across multiple timelines. And that is, massive
Yeah,
shift.
just like if you were to lift a handful of sand that vibrates right through the universe. So only imagine when you lift your mind into the energy of self-acceptance and healing, what you're capable of. See, it all happens when you're calm and relaxed and without judgment. You know, if we're judging other people, it's because they're triggering you. You're triggered, then you have an emotional trigger you need to work on. Pretty simple stuff. It's not bad. It's not shameful. It is what it is. Deal with it, accept it, embrace it. It's all good. This is how we learn. In fact, I've learned so much from my mistakes. I should probably make a couple more.
Yes. They're very quick learning, rapid expansion there.
Well, I'm going to try to see what's going on over here. I don't see like I did back in the day. I can't read that till I put these on.
Yes. One person remarked that we're both wearing blue indigo today. We did not plan that. That just happened. No. It's quite funny.
And in fact, I changed. I had on like just a white collar with a black vest, and it wasn't. This was better.
It's so funny.
I'm so glad and happy to see everybody chiming in on there. I like to see that. I don't always get to do that because I don't always have my glasses when I do these.
We have a very, very supportive community of people that are around us. In fact, many of us are in the same soul group. We've already proved that many times over, that it's like sending ripples out into a pond, It's like that's what we do on a daily basis here, this community. We raise each other's vibration. It's almost like we oscillate each other higher and higher, But then when we go out into the world, we bring our knowledge and experience and our high vibration. And I feel like this group isn't very big, and yet we're making big waves, so to speak.
Well, it's kind of like the butterfly effect, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
bingo.
And
One of the
that's
things
just
that we wanted to talk about today is because many of us are going through a shift inside, internally. And hypnosis can be very helpful when it comes to shifting these things within ourselves. Yes?
hmm Oh yeah, it's all about shifting. Listen, you can drop an attitude or energy like a snake sheds its skin.
Yes.
It's about making decisions, okay? Make a decision and apply a little self-discipline. A little self-discipline is a great investment in your mind and in your future body, your overall health. Just a
What I'm
little
learning right
self-discipline.
now. I'm working on the self-discipline aspect. Big time. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that allows us, we develop self-discipline for lots of good reasons. But it does give us the opportunity to have a sense of control, at least over our own actions, our own minds, our own bodies. So let's see what else I just saw.
This is a momentous treasure to be a part of. Chills, affirmation, the feeling of overwhelming gratitude.
Oh,
Thank you. Lovely
thank
comment.
you guys for showing up.
I'm sorry that today it's hard to read the comments because there's a glitch on StreamYard that's turning everybody into Facebook users. So that's why we can't normally see. Some of them are leaving their names in the comments. It's very helpful, you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, that is helpful. Yeah, that's nice.
I have dreamed of places, a different life and dream state than seeing the same house, town, etc. when I traveled to Sri Lanka. One of the things that
Excellent.
I've had confirmed many times over is that sometimes when you feel a strong inclination to visit a place, it's because you're going there to reconnect with another version of yourself that lived in that space. Picking up
Yeah,
light
I mean,
codes and memories.
when I do like past life regressions, I feel like there are two distinct ways it unfolds. Sometimes it seems like a bloodline, genetic, ancestral
Mm,
regression, and sometimes it's sort of the regression of the soul, sort of a life between lives, or that soul's incarnation or reincarnation, to be more
yeah.
precise, into the physical. But it is a great opportunity for people to begin to look at what's troubling them
Yeah.
and see what they can do about it. I mean, that's what I said. Just ask yourself, do I like the way I feel? Do I like the way this makes me feel? If the answer is no to those types of questions, and when you ask yourself, well, what is my next step, or what can I do to feel better? The answers will come. They'll come faster and more rapid if you utilize the solar plexus while you do this. So by first drawing your own energy into your palms and then into the solar plexus. And for those that don't know, it's just under the rib cage, but above the navel. It's two clusters of nerves that antenna out into the environment that perceive information before the brain. When you get that gut feeling or
Yes.
butterflies is quite literally those nerve endings all a tingle, right? So utilizing the solar plexus, drawing the energy in, breathing into it, begin to ask those questions, and you're going to get your deeper, more answers. As many believe, the solar plexus is the seat of your divine power. So,
Interesting.
drawing upon your divine power is where you'll get your answers.
So for somebody, since you've had so many cases with people that have had abduction experiences, quite a lot of my people I've done clearings on, I've found trauma latent either through disassociations or thought forms or some sort of a trauma that's lingering in the body from an abduction. But a lot of them don't even remember it. They might have a short dream. They might have some kind of, but a lot of people are dealing with trauma and they don't even remember what the trauma is. And some of that is in relation to abductions, I've
Mhm.
noticed. So, what
Well,
are some of the triggers that people might have if they've been abducted but not be aware of it?
they may have trouble sleeping.
I'm sure that's a
They
big one.
may develop a fear of the dark and not know why. They may begin to feel that they're not comfortable around anything with huge eyes, like owls or deers might trigger something that they're uncomfortable with.
Hmm.
Or they might find themselves in those sleepless nights when they do sleep, having bad dreams or dreams of being like you're being taken. Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to exhibit a extraterrestrial or UFO in those cases. Now, because of these things, we see that people move into other areas to self-soothe, including alcohol and drugs. But there are large cases of experiencers just had it, they're just drink themselves out of that memory. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, your body holds memory as
Yeah.
well as the subconscious mind. And so you might also feel a trigger in the body. Now, there are some other commonalities among experiencers, like neck pain, like allergies to antibiotics, like higher cravings for vitamin C or oranges after an abduction because of coming back through the decontamination. It strips a level of our immune system, and we begin to crave that which will increase the immune, which is primarily vitamin C. Now, I can't definitively prove that through that decontamination that's what's happening, but it appears to be that because of the commonalities among experiencers describing the white room. I believe the white room is the decam room.
Okay.
So,
I had an astral projection experience, and I was in a white room for that completely, like in the Matrix. That's what it reminds me of, when there's
yeah.
just a room that was endless, no walls.
Oh, interesting.
I've had some
Well,
really weird experiences, and I have no memory of it. I have no nightmares of it, so I don't think it was a traumatic experience for me. But I was told in my early 20s that I couldn't have children. Went to, it's a long story. I was trying to get out of the US very desperately because of the whole 9/11 thing. So I went to go and sell eggs, and I couldn't. My doctors, two of them, two different clinics, told me I didn't have any. They told me that you're born with every, you know what I mean? Grandmothers are born with it. It's like you have what you're going to have for life. And they told me I didn't have any. And they said, well, we don't know. You maybe just weren't born with any. And I thought that was very weird. So I came to terms with the fact that I could never have children. And I was told, like, you can adopt someday. That was their attitude. I was like, okay, but and I asked, like, is there anything I should be concerned about? They said, no, as long as things are happening normally for you, you're fine. Just come to terms with it, and I don't know, adopt. That was their attitude. So when
well,
my son
you
was
can give
born,
birth to an idea. You can give birth to different ideas and bring them to fruition. And yes, adopting or fostering is something, but
perfect.
the ability to nurture and nourish a human does not require that you are also the vessel of that being.
Well, what's interesting is I ended up getting pregnant on my 30th birthday, which also happened to fall literally on Mother's Day. And I looked at myself in the mirror, and I just knew I was pregnant. I just knew. And I laughed it off. I was like, it was 10 minutes ago. Like, don't be a crazy person. Like, like you just turned 30. It's your Mother's Day, And I knew I was pregnant with a boy. I just knew that I was. And I didn't know how I knew. But I didn't say anything for weeks. And sure enough, I ended up being pregnant with a boy. But so it bothered me so much. I was wondering, like, where did he come from? Like, how is this even possible? And I was obsessing over it. I was thinking about it all the time until I had a dream one night where I was sitting in a doctor's office. It was very similar to the white room, but there were equipment around the room. And the doctor said to me, don't worry, we allowed you to keep one. That's what the doctor told me. And I was like, what? Like, what a weird dream. And then I find out that my son isn't even here technically on Earth. He's in a pod. He's actually an ET in a pod. He's in one of those inversion chambers where they get in and then they come here. So I find out they had to have abducted me in order to make that happen. So I was taken, and they confirmed that I was taken, but I have zero memory of it whatsoever. And I said, why was I taken? And they said, just to make sure that it was gonna work, that, that the pregnancy was gonna hold. And I was
Son
like,
must be very important.
Yeah, we both are, they said. So it's interesting how I'm just thinking back about what you mentioned about your own birth and how traumatic and shocking it was, and it's almost like all of these divine plans, they had to come in unconventionally, so to speak. Some
Yeah.
spirits, we had to come in a very unique way, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's just very
Well, there's a reason for that. It's just like people who like maybe are uh, dyslexic
yeah,
or have a little ADD, and they have to be separated from the class, separated from the herd. What happens is if that child remains confident with self-belief, they become very free thinkers and are more capable of being creative, as opposed to the child that's part of the herd will
yes.
only learn what they're taught. And that's why, even with your own thoughts, is it what you thought or is it something that you were taught? So you want to question yourself all the time so that you can begin to sense free thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got a lot of thinking to do. We've got a lot of advancement that we're going to be making in a short period of time, I think, as a race. And I think that's one of the reasons why the ETs are so invested in our future right now.
So on wiping the memory, I know somebody just who I can't see who made the comment
I
about
know. Sorry about that.
the Hollywood Men in Black movie. Anyway, whoever that is, yeah. So in fact, extraterrestrials have what we call a delta brainwave transmitter, and it crosses the theta and the delta brainwave, recreating the sleep state so that people that are taken think that they're in a dream, and the aliens that are taking you, or the extraterrestrials or interdimensionals that are taking you, might look like anything. They could be old schoolmates, they could be family members, they could be owls. Owls is and something that is very common in the
Mhm.
UFO phenomenon. There's a book out by Mike Cleland called Messengers,
Yeah.
and she talks about all of the coincidences and synchronicities between the extraterrestrials and uh, the abduction phenomena. Yeah, and they do implant false memories as
Yep.
well. What we call those actual screen memories because they're overlaid. But I've come across many screen memories during session, and we can dissolve those. Yes, people are implanted. There are lots of implants. I see that there.
Mhm.
Now, there are many types of implants,
Some are
and
tracking, some are
you can
recording.
scan your own body with a high powered magnet where you think there might be an implant, and you might see it raise. But the implants have changed since like the 70s and 80s and 90s. The implants that we see now, they have like these tentacle wires on them, and they look alive. And in fact, I had somebody with 3 implants, and I have his MRIs, and one of them was on the leg near the groin, and 2 of them were moving together, and one was in the head, in the brain. And when I like put my thumbs on either side to sort of, corral the implant, it resisted and would move away, and I would have to re-corral it. So trying to get like a size, and it was fighting me. It was
Yeah.
resisting. And he said that, yeah, he knows, and
A lot of
he
people know the implants are there. They can sense them. Their intuition is screaming that they're there, but a lot of them are actually out of phase with 3D too. And my spirit team finds implants all over the place that are in the etheric, that aren't even in the physical body. So you can't scan for them. You wouldn't find them with a normal scanner or even a magnet because they're out of phase with our 3D reality. But then when I go through and scan somebody, they're like, oh, yeah, there's an implant in the third eye, there's an implant in the tooth, there's an implant in the gallbladder, there's an implant in the foot. Like they'll be all over the place.
Yeah, once I was standing on this little cliff in San Diego above Pacific Beach, and I thought I saw 2 dolphins. It was dark out, but there's lights from different buildings, and I thought I saw a couple of dolphins. So I take the path, I go down, and I like literally walk through like mist and fog, and I get to the shoreline, and what I thought were 2 dolphins literally stand up, and they're like men now, but I can see from here back, they still had like that fin. And I don't know if it was a suit or whatever, but they said they had come for me or went out with them on a boat way far. And then I finally said, I don't like this. It's too far. I can't see the shore anymore. And they said, what are you afraid of? I said, I'm afraid that we'll get lost. I'm afraid I'm going to get lost out here. The water is so deep. And he said to me, don't worry. We have a tracking device implant in your foot.
Yes. Yep, there's good ones and bad ones. Yep, the star seeds all have them as well, because your star seed, you're being monitored. They're looking after their own people, so they want to know where you are on Earth at all times. We don't
I have to
remove those
say,
ones for
I
the rest.
am being monitored on a couple of levels. I know I do feel that, but probably 2 years ago, I can't remember, we did that a mini series for Peacock TV with Demi Lovato, and maybe some of the viewers know she's had experiences. She's had lots of experiences, but she had some spiritual, perhaps ET experiences. So she came to a support group meeting that I was doing in Woodland Hills, and I eventually hooked her up to a portable EEG machine to regress her, to be able to see if we were pulling from the subconscious. Because, if you're doing a regression, you want to make sure that the information you're pulling is not memory. I'm sorry, not being made up, that it's actual memory. So the subconscious mind is a receiver. It receives everything you've ever been exposed to, but it has no critical thinking ability, doesn't know right from wrong. It's just a receiver, just takes in the information, and it can't create. Like if you see a face in your dream, you've seen that face in reality or in a book or in a movie, but you've seen that face, because the subconscious can't create it.
This
It
is
can
why the
draw.
subconscious gets so confused about the pre-life imprints as well. People get imprints of memories too before they incarnate, and it ends up being a real memory to you because it is real to you, even if you didn't experience it.
Right. So there are all these layers of watchers. Okay. So we have the higher guidance or our own extraterrestrial family that might check in, maybe even an angelic kingdom that might check in on us, depending where your soul source is from. But on the earth, when I did that for Peacock, which is NBC, they did a deep dive background check into me and showed me that I've been on a government watch list in the United States for many years, since the incorporation of my business and the support groups that I
Normally, it's
run.
just us naughty whistleblower 9/11 types that end up on those. How did you end up on that list?
Because I'm speaking the truth and they know it. And I think that when I talk about empowerment and I'm free to express what's happened to me, and I try to stay balanced and logical, and just know this: I know my destiny. I am in service of the humans. I'm here to help elevate their awareness and consciousness into that fourth dimensional thought process, so that they can have that peace, so that we can collectively move forward. So I know my destiny, I know my purpose, and I'm not afraid to speak. But I have recognized that some of the shows that I've done, when I talk about psychotronics and radionics, the different abilities for them to beam messages through electronic signals into us, they always cut that.
Oh, I'm not surprised. They got to nip that in the bud.
Well, but people need to know, because if you do hear a voice in your head, you have to ask yourself, is that electronic? Is it spiritual, even demonic, or is it a other form of entity through attachment, like a ghost? Now, and there's a difference between a ghost and a spirit. I mean, when you leave the body, Buddhists believe that you have 100 days to go around the earth balancing your energy, that you can do that. And so you'd actually, after a death in the family, you're not even allowed back into the temple, for 90 days.
They're like, nope, you keep your earthbounds out. No,
Because
earthbounds in the temple.
exactly, they think that spirit might still be attached to us.
Yes.
Now, if that spirit does stay attached and it doesn't leave because of its own fear,
will,
it
whatever.
actually goes insane over time because it can't be heard, it can't speak, it can't
That's what
eat, it can't
poltergeists are,
sleep.
for the record. Yep, poltergeists. Yep.
Exactly. So many of them are discarnate humans,
Yeah.
and once they're sort of
Or discarnate ETs.
earthbound.
There's discarnate ETs that start some shit too. Let me tell you, it might not just be a human discarnate being. It could be
Well,
something else.
maybe upon the time of death, the nature of our soul reveals itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so does the soul um, migrate towards a sentient being, or does the soul migrate beyond the etheric into only light energy,
Yeah.
where the human now is what we would say a Merkaba, an actual time space machine that we look like an orb, and we travel until we decide to come back or when our time is right. So a lot of people actually do want to come to the earth, um, because it looks a lot easier over there.
Till you come down here.
The grass is always greener. Okay, let me just tell you that right now. The grass is always greener. No, it does look easy. Okay, from the other side, it does look easy. Oh, just get over it. Oh, just do this. Just, it looks easy, but
When you get
we
down
were
here.
talking earlier about how words have power. And so just for the people that are listening in today, your inner dialogue, uh, those words have power too. And so you have to be kind to yourself,
Yeah.
gentle, self-accepting, so that we're capable of moving forward. So even when we're talking to ourselves or to others, it's try to be careful of the words we use. You shouldn't say to somebody, you shouldn't do that, or you should do this, because they may perceive that as judgment, where if you really want them to do that for their own good, you might say you could do this, as it's presented in permissive languaging. The conscious receives it better. So if you're dealing with a adult or a child, you could present it as you could do this or you could do that, and that might work for you. But if you say, oh, you should do this, it's like the inner rebel comes forward, and they're like, they shut down a bit because it's
Reverse
perceived.
psychology works very well on me for that reason. Because somebody tells me what to do, I'm like, no, I'm a Taurus, born in the year of the ox. I'm very stubborn. Thank you. So, yeah.
From what I understand, the Vedic astrology just recently told me I'm a double Virgo. I'm not
Oh,
exactly sure what that means, but I'm a
just
double
gonna say, how
Virgo.
could you be a double virgin? That's it. Makes you,
Just lucky, I
you're just
guess.
so pure, aren't you?
Yeah, a double Virgo. They said that, yeah, it's a bit unusual. I think it's because of the a date, a time, and location of my birth. It's just a series of nines, which is a completion cycle.
Yeah. Have they
Like
told you this is going to
basic.
be your last life on Earth yet?
Well, I am here right now because it was my choice. I could have went through when I was 30. I'd already passed. Okay. I had done what I needed to do. I had reached the emotional energy that was necessary to be around higher frequency entities without causing harm. All right. And so I've already chose to be here. I love the humans, all of them. The first humans, the material ones, the second ones that we call the psychics, which aren't necessarily psychism as people may guess. It's really more about being open to the etheric belief. The third type of humans that live on the planet right now are those born already aware. And those are the ones who are positioned here because they chose to do this out of love. And so I'd already did what I needed to do. I'm here now in 100% willing service to the other humans because I want everyone to know what it feels like to feel fully accepted and unconditionally loved, to be guided into their full potential, and to be accepted for right where they are in this moment, and just allow them to be. Listen, in the garden of life, A rose does not wish to be a tulip. A tulip has no desire to be a violet. We all radiate our own unique perfume, okay? Together, a beautiful bouquet, but individually, we need to accept that. We are ultimately connected, but our individuality is very important, and we just should only be the best version of ourselves.
Hmm.
You know, that's why I just detest shows like the Kardashians and stuff like that. It's just like brain rot for society. And I just feel that it's a detriment to both young men and women. Anyway, not that anybody cares, but that's really that sort of energy makes a person very externalized, focusing their energy on appearance, as opposed to being internalized and understanding their psyche themselves, their authentic true self, and then beginning to integrate the different aspects of their personalities. It's because we all behave differently. Our personality is really our personal reality. Okay. It's what we are, a product of our environment if we go with the flow. Right. So we have to know ourselves, know who you are, know your own self, know your mind, because now more than ever, that people will try to change that for you through varying ways.
Beautifully said, Laurie. And I love how you described your mission here. I feel that you and I are very similar in missions. That must be why I'm so excited to speak with you today, and why I've been so connected to your work, and why I feel that so many of us are here today, like sharing that love with each other, because we're
Mhm.
all here to change the world. We are quite literally doing so. And you can feel that more and more every day as the shift intensifies, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's a beautiful world, and we have to remember that. You know, I've been very fortunate. I spoke in Geneva, Switzerland. I've spoke a couple of places across China. I've had a great opportunity to share my truth, and to allow people to just feel like loved. All right. I like to remind people that outside of your conscious awareness, you are deeply and profoundly loved by an energy that supersedes both good and bad, just this pure, beautiful energy of love. And that love is continuously imbued upon the psyches of the human. And the more we open ourselves to that, the more we're receptive to it, the more we're able to share it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Laurie. I gotta ask, do you do ever like a healing retreats or anything like that in person? You do?
I was just gonna say, I do retreats. I do spiritual retreats. So far just for women. But we've done them in Hawaii, up at Mount Shasta.
Oh, lovely.
I rented a 70-acre horse ranch at the base of Yosemite, and Laura Eisenhower was one of our
I love
teachers.
Laura. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's gonna say it the way she sees it, and I gotta love that, man.
I know, I love
So
that
I
about her. She suffers
I
no
invited
fools
her.
and takes no shit.
That isn't that beautiful, right?
Yeah,
So
that's her
yeah,
authentic self, and I love it. Every bit of it.
i- if people go to the website, it's not completely updated right now. I'm not even sure all the TV shows are on it, but so I not really have a lot of time to do that sort of thing. But I have a media page and an event page,
I'm gonna share it for
and
you guys
I'll
here.
put up like workshops and
I feel very strongly I
retreat.
need to come to one of your workshops in person. I don't know why. I just have this
Oh, you
overwhelming
love it.
feeling I need
Yeah,
to.
and then I hypnotise everybody.
That's
Oh, look,
fun.
their
I love
actual
that.
names are starting to show up. Are they? No,
That's
that's it.
for some reason it's fine on YouTube.
Oh,
On
sure.
YouTube it's coming up, but Facebook it's like, nope, you don't get nothing on Facebook today.
Huh. Well, I appreciate everybody coming into the chat
Well, as
anyway.
Jess said, this
So cool.
conversation has been super insightful and beautiful. I had chills and even teared up at certain points. Thank you,
Oh,
Jess.
thank you. It was a pleasure.
Really. Likewise. I've loved chatting with you today, Laurie. This was good fun. I've been really excited about this chat, and I'm not surprised it ended up happening on 11/11. Everything in its divine timing.
Yeah, and I closed True Hypnotherapy today in honor of Remembrance Day, or I believe you call it Memorial Day in
Yep,
America.
Memorial Day, yep.
Yeah. In Canada, we call it Remembrance Day, and we all wear poppies.
Oh, beautiful. So that's the British style.
Well, Canada is
Yes.
a Commonwealth country,
Yep.
and so he's our king too. And
Yep.
I mean, so they say, yeah.
Well, we have our traditions, don't we?
Well, Canada has fought in every war right alongside America, and so we have lost just as many vets. And so, yeah, Canada has
I'm
their
very
own
invested in vets. I do a lot of clearings on vets. Every single one of them that I do clearings, they've come home with all kinds of beasties and implants and freaky shit on them. Yeah. So any veterans that need help, send them my way. I'm very keen to help veterans.
Same here. I work with an enormous amount of veterans. I've worked a lot with some Vietnam veterans who have had
Really?
experiences while they were in Vietnam seeing UFOs and something way freakier than a UFO, giant insectoid. Okay, so
We've cleared
um,
a lot of those. Yes. Those big
yeah,
insects are really something, aren't they?
yeah. I actually think they're second dimensional as they come through portals. But yeah,
We leave puncture wounds in people a lot. We send a lot of healing for people with those puncture wounds that they do. Those insectoids are my least favorite things to find on people. I'd rather find a reptilian than an insectoid on somebody.
yeah. Well, the reptilians are very easy to deal with as they're very regimented, and
Yeah.
if you understand the rank.
Yep.
And I do understand the rank, and the humans
What?
outrank them. And when you get that, trust me, they'll literally bow to allow you to pass.
They must have a very good respect, very high respect for you to do that.
Oh, that's what they did.
I'm not surprised.
And I took other women out of there with me. In
Good.
fact, I opened
Wonderful.
a book and showed them my bloodline, that they absolutely are in full violation by interfering with my bloodline. And that's when they kind of said, oh, yeah, they were busted.
Well, this is what this is our community is very well versed in this reptilian stuff because we've been dealing with them quite a lot over the past year. They've been trying to throw a lot of monkey wrenches around, but we been thwarting them, so to speak.
Yeah. There is a hierarchy of extraterrestrials and how that works. And in fact, in one of the lectures on my event page, I think it's one from LA, I go over that. I see that somebody is glad to see we outrank them, but we most definitely do.
Make sure to check out Laurie's stuff on Gaia. Laurie has tons of interviews on Gaia that are amazing, and also you've got a YouTube channel, and there's a whole you've got all
I
kinds
don't
of
have
stuff.
anything on my YouTube channel. I know I should, but I don't. But I am on travel, history, Peacock, Gaia, and what other stuff. I don't really know.
Exciting. I love it. Well,
I
thank
never
you so
watch
much.
me.
I feel like we could have a whole nother, we could be chatting all day about this stuff. It's so much fun to
Oh,
chat with you, Laurie, really. But
right.
thank you so
Stop
much.
me now. Right.
I would love to have you back on another time and we could chat more about the different hierarchies and all of that. That'd be
I
great.
would love that. Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such a fun
Thank you for
chat.
having me.
We're so blessed. Thank you. And make
You're
sure
welcome.
that you guys check out Laurie's website and maybe you guys can join me for one of her retreats. How fun would that be? I'll share it one more time for you guys. And make sure to have a look. Also, we've got your Facebook here. I'm going to share that for you as well. There we go.
Thank you.
So those who would like to follow her on Facebook, there's the link as well. Perfect. Thank you, Laurie. And thank you to everybody that spent such a long time with me today. I love hanging out with you guys. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you
We'll
again.
see you guys soon. Take care.